In today's episode, we're talking about forgiveness and reconciliation. And this is something that's been on my mind and heart a lot lately. And when you say forgiveness, the act of forgiveness or what that even means or looks like for each individual person is going to vary and differ. But sometimes folks really grapple with that concept of forgiveness or actually going through the motions to forgive, because there's that feeling that if you forgive, it's forgotten. If you forgive, it's excusing someone's behavior. It's if you forgive, it's enabling. If you forgive, you let them off the hook. But forgiving isn't forgetting, but forgiving holds this key component of freedom, not only for you, but the other person as well. And forgiveness can take time. There can be layers to forgiveness. Um, so often this can come up where there could be a feeling of being slighted, and you could hold on to this thing, like clutching on to this thing and not being able to let go of it, because if you do, then it completely disregards what happened to you, or it completely disregards the situation. But that's not always the case. And even in those moments, you could feel that very active in your body. What happens if you let go? If you let go, it's excusing. This comes up a lot with couples if there's been infidelity. Forgiveness can be hard because forgiveness is not forgetting, but forgiveness does not mean you keep bringing things up from the past into the present. Unless, of course, things from the past keep making their way into the present. There's a difference. If things from the past keep repeating themselves in the present, then there's a reason you're bringing it forward. But if you're in the present and you're moving through forgiveness, throwing things from the past into the present isn't going to help the situation. And when you do that, have you really forgiven? Right? So once again, there can be different layers to forgiveness, but a huge piece that comes up for people, once again, in relationships, if there's been infidelity, it's if you forgive, they get away with it. If you forgive, you've let them off the hook. It's okay. That slight that's happened to you, all of the pain, the heartache, the trauma associated with that, whether it's emotional infidelity, the actual physical act of infidelity, if you forgive, what you went through meant nothing. What they did is excused and okay. And that's not always the case. But when you've been betrayed, it can be hard to let that go. And when you've been betrayed, you're going to be so afraid, you're going to have fear that it's happening again. You might always be waiting for, like, is this situation going to play out the way that it did before, right? Which steals you from the present moment and steals the future from you. And to be mindful of that. Coming to a place of forgiveness isn't always easy. However, coming to a place of forgiveness is very powerful. I always use this analogy of, well, we were talking where you're holding on to that slight that you've had, just holding and clutching and gripping. But even think of it this way. So let's say you've been hurt, and somebody hurt you really, really, really bad, and you're angry and you can't let it go and you won't let it go and you can never let it go. And think of this beautiful little bottle, poison. Wouldn't you know, poison, and you're just holding that bottle, the resentment, the unforgiveness, sip every time. Anger, festering, sip. So you're drinking all of this poison. You are drinking all of this poison, and you're holding that anger and you're holding that resentment, and just you're drinking the poison and wondering, why are they still there? Why aren't they being inflicted by this poison as you keep drinking the resentment and the unforgiveness? And that is toxic to the system. So it is that analogy of, drinking the poison, but expecting somebody else to receive the brunt of that poison. It's doing more harm to you than to anybody in your environment, anybody else. However, you could be drinking the poison and in your environment, if that unforgiveness, if there hasn't been unforgiveness, if there is resentment, that is going to permeate into your environment. So you might be drinking the poison, but then by default, everything else feels toxic around you. And we're not saying you're toxic. I'm not saying that. If we hold that resentment and unforgiveness within our hearts, it is toxic and it's essentially poison for the heart. It takes courage and bravery, patience for forgiveness. But so often, the real act of forgiveness, so sure, it could be forgiving someone else, but it's setting you free. You don't have to hold that resentment or that unforgiveness in your system anymore. You don't have to hold it anymore. And once again, the tricks that our minds play, the mind is telling them they get away with it, the mind, all of those stories, it doesn't have to be that way. If someone's behaviors keep repeating, if you've forgiven, but there's been no different course of direction made, then that's a whole other topic to explore. That might not even have anything to do with forgiveness. Chances are, forgiveness will be involved with that, but then it's even forgiveness for self. So there is a forgiveness prayer that I've worked with over the years, and I was first introduced to it probably like 2013, something like that. And I really liked it because it was using forgiveness, but covering these different aspects of forgiving others for hurting you consciously or unconsciously, forgiving yourself for hurting others consciously or unconsciously, and then forgiving yourself for hurting yourself consciously or unconsciously. Because sometimes, you can be out in the world and you've hurt someone and you don't even know. You cut somebody off, and who knows what stories that played in their life, in their world, from other things that maybe have nothing to do with you except for that moment of cutting them off while you're driving. So we're not invincible to hurting other people. You might not intentionally choose to hurt somebody, but you could inadvertently hurt someone, unknowingly hurt someone. And that could happen as well where someone hurts you. So people can choose to hurt you intentionally, but sometimes people are unknowingly hurting you. And you can harbor these feelings of resentment. You can harbor those feelings of unforgiveness. But when you work with prayers or statements like that, and being in the heart space and saying it, it's where you're feeling it. So then on that energetic level, because mentally, like logically, you might think, okay, I forgive so-and-so who bullied you in grade 3. You had a bully in grade 3. So logically, you could be thinking, okay, that was a long time ago. That was grade 3. Who knows what was going on in their life, and you move beyond that. But what about the energetic ties or tethers that could still be there, or there could still be some resentment or unforgiveness in the subconscious. So when you go into those states of forgiveness using these prayers or these statements, it's, I want to say, like a clearing of the debris or residue that could still be within the body, the mind, the heart, energetic field, subconscious. And then at the same time, through that clearing, it's almost like sprinkling or showering, having this outpouring from the heart of forgiveness to touch all of those areas. So it's like the debris has been removed, and then it's being showered and washed away through forgiveness. And I've also been thinking about this a lot, where there's that thought of, how you think about people or how you view people, the thoughts you have running in your minds in the Bible, and don't quote me where. However, they have the examples of, if you've thought about adultery, you've already committed adultery. If you've thought about harming someone, you've already harmed them. It's like it's already done in the spirit. If you've thought about it, it's done in the spirit. And that's really stuck with me because, we don't want to be walking in the world having, especially now, like there's so much going on, and just those thoughts can be these little arrows or darts, and it really puts it into a perspective. If you put it in that lens of, if you're thinking something negatively or not pleasing about someone, and it's just a thought, but energetically you've already expelled, or you've already spent some of that energy towards that person in that way. And yeah, it could just be a thought. For me personally, I know we're not going to get along with everybody, and forgiveness will look different, reconciliation will look different, but I intentionally do not want to cause anybody harm. I don't want to cause anybody harm, point blank, period. Remember, because sometimes it can be done knowingly and unknowingly. So it's really put me in that space of like, okay, like what are the thoughts going through my mind? Are they kind and loving? And really not deflecting or ignoring things that come up, but to look at them. And that's an encouragement for you as well. What are the thoughts that you have going in your mind about people, and where are they being directed? And just know that like, no judgment. We don't have to judge. You don't have to judge yourself for it, but to know that there's some sort of energy that's been taken to put into that thought and coming from you. So it's like energy that's come from you as well. And our energy is our life force. So that's really important. Where are you wanting to put your life force? Where are you wanting to spend that, and nourish that and support that? So like I said, layers to forgiveness. And this has been something that has really been on my mind and heart. And I'm going to have more information coming, in the upcoming weeks, for a series where we're going to be looking at, the primary focus is heart healing, but the key to that the key to that is forgiveness. So it'll be online live series, but there'll be a recording, so there'll be access to it later. But to really go through that process of, what does forgiveness look like for you, feel like for you, experiential opportunities to feel into the body, to find where there could be unforgiveness hiding, where resentment could be hiding, and just like to where we're talking about clearing the debris, to pick out the debris, to clear it, and then fill and wash away that with forgiveness. Because we're not in a place to be held back. You're not in a place to be held back. And holding that unforgiveness in your heart, it turns your heart into stone, and it makes it bitter. And you could still be kind and loving, but there's just, it's just like right there, it could be hiding. And it's really important to, on that higher level, to not be harboring any ill will, knowingly or unknowingly, to other folks out there. When you forgive, it's not forgetting. Once again, you could forgive and people aren't in your life anymore. And reconciliation can mean a lot of things. You can forgive and then reconcile and return into different relationship dynamics. They might not ever be the same as they were before. That could even be a good thing, though. That could be a very good thing if they're never the same as they were before. Because what got you both, right? It's like, what got you all into that situation in the first place? So maybe it is good that they might not ever be the same again. Or maybe, it's an evolved form of a relationship. It's a distanced relationship. Even the reconciliation can happen within yourself, right? Because choosing to forgive might be breaking patterns that you had before. Even forgiving yourself for all the times and ways that there's been harm done to you, or all the times and ways that you've put yourself in harm, all the times and ways that you have harmed yourself, knowingly unknowingly, and then reconciling that within yourself, finding peace within yourself, not judging yourself, not believing that you deserve to continue to be punished until the ends of the end times or the end days, whatever that is, for all eternity, that you deserve to be punished. No, because that's holding you back too. Because if you believe that and you're feeling that, how is your life looking? Forgiveness is freedom. Forgiveness is the key to unlocking your heart. Forgiveness can mean a new beginning. It can mean an ending, and it can mean a beginning, but one that has the foundation of freedom. Lots of love.